guys and gals? Never here from Drake Wayne Game, and it's heavy mounted toward the gaming drag today. I'm coming back at you with the Let's Play episode of A Fall from Grace. So y'all, I just had some tea, and this tea has made me a little bit loopy and a little bit floaty feeling. I don't know why. It's just like normal tea. I don't know if I unlocked some kind of weird cheat code, or maybe this tea has something in it that's not supposed to be in it. I don't know. I feel good though. Let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Try and keep it together as best I can, with this tea flowing through me. In fact, Lysander, his mother and father were almost complete strangers, relatives he'd see during the weekend, perhaps for the occasional game of croquet if they were feeling particularly sociable. Being the only son, as well as the heir to the largest and wealthiest estate and family fortune in the county, didn't seem to make him special in the slightest in their eyes. His father was a bitter and disillusioned man, and couldn't care less about how the young lion spent his fortune. As for his mother, he was quite sure there must have been some kind of mistake the day he was born. Surely the mother he was meant to have was a warm, kind, and loving lady. The old woman he visited each Sunday shared none of those attributes. Rather, he had a hunch she'd probably never wanted to bear a child in the first place. Not everyone is fit for parenting, after all. These were all minor issues to him. The one thing that mattered, that he was profoundly grateful for, was the fact that he had been born into upper-class society. His mother had taught him that it was a sign that his thoughts and views mattered more than most other people's, as he was the descendant of a noble lineage that was said to have once been related to royalty in the distant Middle Ages. This was the philosophy that always kept him going, even during the darkest times. No, I think I'm related. I think I have blood dating back to King Charlemagne. His parents had squandered their opportunity, but he had a right to do so as he pleased and change the world around him. His sort had been chosen to guide the rough and unruly masses that were the lower classes. Indeed, worthy people like him rightfully ruled the country. But there was one other aspect of himself Lysander couldn't seem to control and had been fighting ever since that fateful day when Cedric had left, a feeling that had been gnawing at the back of his mind persistently. What he had come to realize was his own attraction to men. He'd been brought up to believe the very thought was not even an option, and that if it actually existed it was disgusting and sinful, a vice most likely imported from lustful, unmanly countries such as France or Italy. But how could this be true? Surely there was a reason he felt this way. He wasn't a common tail-raiser, and the fact that both he and Cedric were so inclined could not be a coincidence. He'd come to realize it was a sign they were meant for each other, and the fact that Coyote had been blinded by infatuation for a low-life fox was the main obstacle Lysander needed to overcome if he wanted to achieve his rightful goal. The sound of the organ began to grow distant, eventually fading away as he slid past the gate and down the off-trod path, reaching his mother and father, who were already sitting in their carriage and quietly muttering to themselves. Lysander turned to the coachman as he boarded the vehicle. "Head southeast and drop me off in Hittingstone, Monty, then take my parents home." Alright, so we're going to see how he got there. He sat down as the carriage began moving, pulling the silk curtain to avoid the strong sunlight shining through the foliage above. There were many wide trees on each side of the road they were taking. "Where did you say you were headed, Lysander?" "You heard me, mater. Do not pretend otherwise," his father growled. "What the hell are you staying in Hittlestone for, boy?" "I think that is very much my own business," the old lion continued in a sarcastic tone. "I thought you said you hated these towns." Lysander turned to his mother, who had picked up a small book in the meantime. "And since when have you or Potter ever been interested in what I'm doing?" "Not talk nonsense. You know we care about you." The lion grumbled and crossed his arms as he sat back, making himself comfortable. "That would be a change." "I heard talk of a group of bandits lodging near that town from Lady Bisley." Upon hearing this, Lysander wasn't able to contain a naughty grin. "I am well aware." "I'm not paying if they take you hostage, so stay out of trouble." A smile faded from Lysander's face. "I see it is only a matter of time before I get my post-Sunday Mass lecture each week, isn't it?" "Don't say that, Lysander. You know we are uncommonly lenient with you." "How about you get back to that book of yours, mater?" "Utter such remark to your mother, and you're walking to Hittlestone, boy." "What about your friend? What is he up to? I haven't seen him in a while." The young lion's eyes widened as he obviously wasn't expecting this question. "Cedric? Oh, he is doing well." He paused briefly as he gathered his thoughts. "I'll be seeing him again soon, I expect." "I'm glad to hear so. You could learn some manners from him." Oh, yes, you like that soft little spoken Nancy boy, don't you? Lysander felt his hands turn to fists. I'd rephrase that if I were you. Keep calm, boy, I meant no harm. I rather like him myself. And with that, the old lion turned his attention to his wife as they began murmuring about mundane plans and useless gossip. This persisted for the remainder of the journey as Lysander kept quiet. He gazed out the window at the trees passing by, recalling the few times he and Cedric had gone picnicking in the woods. They needed to do so again soon, the moment the coyote was home again. He scowled as he shoved some dirtier thoughts that eventually followed this one to the back of his mind. He only spoke again to say goodbye to his parents once their carriage had reached Hiddlestone. Hiddlestone, okay. Then, picking up the small bag he used for traveling, he ploddingly strode down the main street and saluting the guards he passed along the way. It was barely twilight when Victor finally came to a halt in front of the wide oak tree. Cedric caught up a few seconds later, his legs beginning to ache after the sheer amount of walking and running earlier that day. The forest was almost eerily silent all around, except for the pleasant breeze which was steadily growing stronger now that the sun had disappeared beyond the horizon. The coyote examined their surroundings, and warily spoke up after catching his breath. "What's the matter, V? Why have we stopped here?" Victor turned to look at his friend and smiled gently. "Because we're going to make love." No. "I think luck is on our side, Cedric. I found what we're looking for." Cedric noticed him confidently turn back to face the broad oak tree towering in front of them. "This is the largest tree in the forest. I'm sure I once heard that the residents of the town nearby affectionately refer to it as Herne's Oak. You know, from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night." Cedric smiled at this unexpected literary reference from Victor. "I didn't know you were familiar with Shakespeare, V." He chuckled. "Though you might be mistaking the Twelfth Night for the Merry Wives of Windsor." The fox waved a hand playfully. "Ah, that's what it was. Can't say I'm too familiar with them, to be honest. But I know someone who is." Victor suddenly took off his right glove, bringing his hand to his lips. This was soon followed by a loud and carefully timed three-note whistle. Cedric almost jumped, not expecting this in the slightest, but he quickly realized what was happening. He must have finally reached the bandit camp the fox had excitedly told him about a few hours earlier. The two looked around, waiting to see if Victor's call had worked or if they'd stumbled their way into yet another dead end. The seconds seemed to pass at an agonizingly slow pace as the forest around them grew even quieter. Victor turned to face his friend once more, displaying an increasingly fatigued and defeated expression. "It would appear I was wrong after all." Suddenly a loud rustling of leaves nearby caught their ears. Then, within seconds, a group of figures emerged from the bushes around them. It happened so quickly the coyote didn't have time to register exactly how many people made up this group. One of them rapidly lit a torch, whose sudden light was almost blinding to Cedric's eyes, now having grown accustomed to their dark surroundings. "Well, look who we have here." As the coyote finally began to get a good view of these unfamiliar shapes, he noticed the animal holding the torch was a tall and notably muscular hyena. He's pretty cute. He was extremely imposing, his sole appearance commanding everyone's attention. The clothes this hyena was wearing were also immediately noticeable. A pair of cream-colored breeches and white stockings covered his legs, his shoes black with shiny silver buckles and bright red heels. However, the most unusual item by far was the purple robe he was carrying over his left shoulder that flowed down and tied around his waist, clearly resembling a Roman toga. Above it was a red bandana matching the color of his heels. To complete the look, the hyena was wearing a floral crown made up of various leaves, flowers, and petals, mirroring his poetic Apollonian appearance. Victor smiled confidently. "It's good to see you too, Dion." The hyena replied in a low, almost growling tone. "I can't believe you of all people would show your ugly face again." The fox almost took a step back at this remark. He then gave a worried reply. "Look, I'm sure we can be reasonable about this." Cedric's heart began to beat faster. Was Victor in trouble? Hadn't he said that he and the other bandits were firm friends? Without warning, the hyena and Victor burst out laughing as they fondly embraced. The other two, whose faces Cedric could now discern more clearly, also could not but smile at the scene. "It's wonderful to see you again, you fool." "Welcome back, Vic." "Oh, what a lovely surprise." Cedric sighed, relieved this was just a joke and that his friend had been playing along. The fox turned to face the other bandits once he caught his breath again. As he did, so did Cedric, curiously gazing at these other two animals. The one closest to where he was standing was a Doberman, lean but in good shape with dark and silky short fur. He was wearing what looked like a soldier's uniform. Though it was unlike those of the soldiers Cedric and Victor had been forced to hide from during the past few days, like Coyote thought to himself, he concluded that this must have been much older, dating from at least 50 years earlier. What made this even stranger was the fact that Doberman himself only seemed to be in his late 20s. Cedric thus assumed there must have been quite a tale behind this particular item of clothing. The other bandit standing a few steps away from the dog was a handsome sun bear. A Coyote realized he never actually met someone of this particular species, so he observed them with a naive curiosity. The clothes this bear was wearing were rather worn out, yet very elegantly combined. Alongside them, he brandished a rifle and a rapier, paired off with some polished hunting boots. These bandits certainly cared about their appearance, the Coyote thought to himself. "How have you been, lads? Where are the others?" Dion interrupted Victor, speaking in a much lighter tone than earlier. Cedric noticed the hyena had a rather elegant upper-class accent, as well as a precise, theatrical way of enunciating his words. "We should be asking the questions here, you rascal. Let's save casual conversation for later. What are you doing here, my boy? Are you in need of any assistance?" Then he quickly turned to face Cedric properly for the first time, eyes widening with intrigue. "I see you've begun to associate yourself with a different sort of crowd. Who might this dashing gentleman be?" "This is my childhood friend, Cedric. We've essentially been on the run for the last couple of days. It's a long and fascinating story, but I'd rather be narrating our misadventures around a warm fire and accompanied by something to eat if that's not asking too much." "Of course, my good fellow. Follow me. I'll lead you both to the camp. Hollis will treat you to a hearty dinner." He turned and firmly shook Cedric's hand. "And it's a pleasure to meet you, Cedric." The Coyote gave a short and awkward reply. "Likewise, sir." "Ha! I already like the lad." He turned and gave Victor a knowing look, as if he were privy to something Cedric wasn't, before turning his attention back to the Coyote. Oh, alright, y'all, I'm tired. I'm going to pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. I love you all, and I shall see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!